if you believe everything you read and see in the media, right, Donald Trump's campaign is going down in flames. It's remarkable how much negative coverage he is getting right now, in part because of some self-inflicted wounds, in part because I think there is an undercurrent of feeling among many journalists who minimized or mocked or dismissed Trump's candidacy during the primaries that finally, we told you so, see, he's not a very good candidate after all. Now, three different stories have combined to drive this narrative that Trump is in deep, deep trouble, capped off by some poll numbers. We'll go to the poll numbers first. Bloomberg survey finds that Hillary Clinton now has a 12-point lead over Donald Trump. A caveat, it's only June. National numbers don't mean much. It's all state by state. But then there's a Washington Post poll showing that Trump has a phenomenally high negative rating of 70%. Hillary Clinton, not too shabby, 55%. Are negative toward her. So two pretty unpopular candidates at the moment. The three stories I talked about, it began with Judge Gonzalo Curiel and Trump saying that this judge in the Trump University case, because he is of Mexican heritage, could not possibly be fair, and that brought down a ton of condemnation on his head, including from many leading Republicans. Then you had the tragic Orlando massacre, and Trump gave the speech and tweeted about how he had warned about this, and many people thought that his remarks were divisive and, let's just say, less than presidential. And then his latest fight with the press, barring the Washington Post, yanking the credentials from the paper over what I have to say was a very bad and inaccurate headline, but nonetheless, the media kind of closing ranks around one of their own and saying Trump should not be doing this and what would he do as president and all of that. So just to give you the flavor of it, New York Times piece, these are news stories, folks. Trump's apocalyptic speech on the aftermath of Orlando is part of the exploitation of fear. This has long been true in American politics, says the New York Times, but now Trump is demonizing an entire religious group. Well, he would deny that. He is saying we shouldn't let in Muslims, which turned out to be a pretty popular position, at least in the primaries, temporarily, until we can do a better job of assessing who might be a threat. And in the wake of a crazed Muslim killing 49 people in an Orlando nightclub, that probably will have appeal to more voters than just those in the elite media might believe. And then you do have a number of GOP leaders who weren't for Trump in the beginning, who are uncomfortable with his candidacy, either criticizing some of his remarks, both in the case of the judge and in the case of Orlando, or just kind of refusing to talk about him or otherwise skirting the issue. So you've got this headline in Politico: Hill Republicans despondent over Trump. A palpable mix of despair and resignation has permeated the Senate Republican conference. Many lawmakers are openly frustrated and refusing to defend the comments and actions of their own standard bearer. Now, I'm not saying any of this is not true. Trump has hit a very rough stretch these last 3 weeks. He has struggled, shall we say, to make the pivot toward a general election candidacy, but he's also a guy who is running for president in a way that nobody else ever has before. And a lot of times in the past, and yes, he has to play on a broader stage now, but a lot of times in the past, he would do or say things that everybody in the media would say, that's it, he's out of the race by next week, he's imploded, he's never bouncing back. We don't know whether that will be the case again. We could look back on this period and say this is the time when Donald Trump lost the general election, or it could turn out that he is able to bounce back and that he is able to drive some themes against an almost equally unpopular Democratic candidate that will make some of this punditry look terribly outdated by the time November comes around.